All right, so now that we've layered a bunch of cloud references, I went from just having 2 to having multiple here, lots and lots. Now we want to be a little bit more direct about getting the shape of our creature, or at least the impression of our creature. I've kind of got a guy, right? I've got like kind of a Mickey Mouse ear here, in the background ear there, but I don't really connect that with an ear so much yet. And so I want to start taking it down and finding it a little bit more. So what I'm going to do is kind of keep this guy open somewhere. I'm trying to think what a good way to do that is. What if I went to my assignment 2 folder and just opened up my PNG just in preview? So I just open it with preview, just to remind myself what my creature looks like. And I'm just going to make him really small, kind of tuck him in the corner. So that's one way you can reference your creature. Another way that's actually quite helpful for this project is to go ahead and make your creature visible within your project. And I'm just going to shrink him down into the corner. Hold down Shift. And this might even go into your final project, as you'll see in some past student examples, where we kind of show the creature we're trying to suggest. But I'm not trying to just trace it and make it exactly this. I'm trying to first make it a believable cloud. All right, so now with that guidance, I'm going to use some different tools now. First, I'm going to look for ones that have kind of edges that aren't very believable. And with my eraser at a pretty high opacity, I can continue to soften those a little bit. Right, I can also layer them behind different layers. But I want something there, some sort of shadow underneath, so it feels like the cloud is rolling towards me. So all that works. Okay, I have this cloud. Right, that's a little too Mickey Mouse. I like it, so I'm going to duplicate it and then erase away from it some more. Maybe at not as high an opacity, but kind of tighten it up a little bit. Just a little bit more bat-like. Let some mist kind of gather around it. All right, so now that's looking, I have this little kind of eye hole there, which can be useful. Now, what if I want to use that eye hole somewhere else? Well, I can use that trick. I'm going to keep this layer up above everything. This is my creature, so I'll go ahead and label that. Maybe I'll turn it off at the end, we'll see. And then right below that, I'm going to do my special clone stamp layer. So you'll remember this from assignment 2. I'm going to mark it red. I'm going to use the clone stamp only on that layer. And I'm going to sample from all layers with the clone stamp. Make it pretty large, make it 0% hardness, make it 100% opaque to start with. But then I can definitely play with that. I want around 500 pixels. There we go. And now what I can do are things like, I like this. I can target that shape and kind of put that in as the eye where I want it. I want this as the snout. And I can kind of target that right here. Put that in. And then I have to look where I need shadow. I need more shadow here, to kind of show that hand. Where do I want some highlight on the ridge? Maybe right there. So now I've got like 2 eyes. I've got a bit of a snout, though it's a pretty hideous snout. Let's get some ear in there. Maybe take it from here. I want some highlights, soft-edged highlights that show my creature. Now, it's easy to overdo this, which is why it's on a separate layer. I want some highlights on the arm here. Steal it from other cloud. Remember, this is a soft-edged clone stamp. Now, just with that clone stamp layer, you see how it's really starting to bring out that creature. Now, what about the harder areas, like the foot? Well, let's get something for the top of the foot. Maybe right there. That's really bright. Let's take that down a little bit. Okay, now I can go to a lower opacity, about 50%. And now I can start transitioning between these elements. So, pulling from the cotton balls that are stuck to the gum, thinning them out, putting them in different places, kind of sculpting with them. That's what we're doing now. And because they're transparent, it's pretty safe to do. You can soften those snout nostrils and then get more shadow underneath. So the silhouette of your character helps a lot, but then you're going to need a little bit of these details to help kind of push aspects of your character forward with the lighting of the cloud. So clone stamp can really help with that. Now it still needs to be believable as a cloud. And I'm pretty lucky. My cloud reference here, it was chosen to all be kind of lit in a similar way. So there aren't clouds that are super blue or super yellow. But if there are, you can fix those with color balance. I want some shadow in the ear here. I can steal it. But now I'm at a lower opacity, so it won't be as obvious.
Would you suggest using the dodge and burn tools to try to match the light?
So if you want to change the direction of the lighting, yes, you can use dodge and burn tool. It's not as effective as it was on, say, like the landscape, because these clouds are at different opacities and different ones are showing. So I might suggest, if you wanted to use dodge and burn, doing it with an overlay layer. So I can show you that now. So this is a reminder from assignment 3. If we make an overlay layer, let's label it gray. So our clone stamp layer is red, our overlay layer is gray. We fill that first with middle gray, edit fill. Whoops, not with white. Edit fill with middle gray. Then we change its blending mode to overlay. And this allows us to dodge and burn right on the clouds that are there. So if I burn first, I'm going to only do midtones at a low exposure, an exposure of only 17%. And what I can do is take kind of the shadow of the hand and burn those clouds right there. So as long as you keep it subtle, they'll still look like clouds, right? But that is a way you can kind of get a shape to them. And that's going to help with the foot here. But sometimes it will like burn the sky instead, and you don't want that. So you want to be a little bit careful with it. If I were to dodge, that's going to brighten areas. So if I wanted to brighten the clouds right here, the benefit of it is it's not going to hurt your texture at all. All that cloud texture is going to remain. But if I wanted to, get rid of those shadows there a little bit, dodging them can make sense. It can help with transitions. Okay, and then on the top of the snout, maybe dodge a little. Okay, now, last trick. And now we'll just be using these things a lot. Clone stamp. At low opacity, soft brush. Overlay layer. One last thing we can add to it, and I'm going to use it for these toes here and these claws, is a new tool called the Smudge tool. And it's right above dodge and burn. you have the blur tool, the sharpen tool, and the smudge tool. If you go to the smudge tool, choose pretty large brush, 0% hardness. Go ahead and keep a strength of 50. And I'm going to try to show you how this works. Now I need to probably turn off my auto select because I have overlay layers now. But I want to find my foot. Okay, so my foot's on my clone stamp layer. So I'm on my clone stamp layer. I'm going to use this smudge tool, which looks like a little finger, and I'm going to pull down with it. And just did a lot. Let me make the brush a little bit smaller so I can work on these toes. I'm going to pull down and just let it do its work. And it's not my favorite tool because it takes a while for the computer to kind of process what you're doing. But it's just like the wind pushing up against the cloud. And it will smudge it as it goes. So let's go back. I need to find one of these layers. There we go. I'm going to use the smudge tool on that, kind of bring those clouds out. It's so subtle, but you can see it's kind of pushing and slowly pushing the cotton into shape. If anyone's done felting and using needles with woolly yarn to try to push them into a certain shape, it's kind of like this. Okay, and then of course you can augment it with your eraser. Soft edged at lower opacities. Kind of get what you want. Sometimes it's hard to know what the shape is, right? So I just want to suggest those toes. I turn auto select back on, and I'm going to turn my overlay layer off so that I can select these layers more directly. Get rid of any lingering hard edges. There we go. And the nice thing about a clone stamp layer is you can then fade it in or fade it out using opacity, but it's going to be pretty helpful here. And then if you want to just take down the opacity in little areas, I recommend doing that with the eraser, like on the foot here, passing it back and forth. Okay, now how am I going to finish off that foot? Let's do more of clone stamping. And maybe with a smaller brush. Now, it's very tempting, but try not to clone stamp the sky. Don't try to paint the edges because that's going to cause problems. Instead, erase away to get the edges you want. Because if you clone stamp the sky that you've painted, then you won't be able to change that sky at all without having kind of a patchiness around what you've already done. And the other nice thing about having clone stamp on one layer is if you take it too far, you can always just erase from just that clone stamp layer. So now I'm just trying to clean up some of these overly contrasted transitions. Contrast is something else that is pretty meaningful in clouds. You have to kind of know how it works to be believable.